I think about it from an economic point of view rather than necessarily from what the equity market is doing. And I think from the economy, we are seeing some better signals in the data. So to me, what stood out was the ISM manufacturing survey and the non-manufacturing survey. Both of them did tick up, suggesting maybe last month was indeed the low for those surveys. So manufacturing is still in a contraction. There's still a lot to work through in terms of how the trade war is spilling into the broader economy. But I think what investors are looking for, and maybe the reason that markets have become so much more upbeat, is because they're just looking for signs of inflection. And the data is hinting in that direction.
We're seeing those cyclicals here, Joe, moving up: energy, tech, those kinds of things. Are you also seeing signs of optimism, or are you seeing risks here that the market is not factoring in?
I think markets have ultimately become just a little bit complacent. I completely agree that perhaps we have seen a cyclical bottom in some of the economic data, but we haven't necessarily seen signs of growth reaccelerating. And to comment on the clip that you just shared just a few moments ago, looking into next year, 2% growth, I agree that is stable, but it's hard to get excited about that. What's going to drive earnings growth even higher from this point? We just approach this with a great deal of caution.
So when you see the signals from the bond market, Joe, we're 10-year 1.86% roughly, German bunds, highest since July, the 2s10s curves, the steepest in 3 months or so. You don't buy that? That's a risk-on signal.
It is a risk-on signal, and I also think the stock market's essentially telling you the same thing. And the fact that we continue to inch closer to a record high day after day, I guess I question how much more this market has to run. I think markets have become very comfortable. I think a lot of the data has been priced in. This idea that a phase one deal will be signed between the U.S. and China is alleviating a little bit of fears. I think some of the worst case scenarios as it relates to Brexit, some of that's been pushed off to the side. And as a result of that, markets are responding. But ultimately, what's been driving this market so far this year, it's been incredibly accommodative monetary policy from the Federal Reserve.
Joe, I want to back up what you're saying here. Our CNBC Rapid Update, which tries to, get a median on the street of where the GDP forecasts are, sees additional slowing this quarter. That we're down, we're running 2 from the third quarter. We're going to 1.5 now. The Atlanta Fed is down at 1%. Now, what I think is happening, I don't think there are many economists on the street. We've got Michelle here, but that have much visibility on the first quarter of next year. The market's playing the fourth quarter like it's the bottom. Yeah. And we're going to go 2, 1.5. And I think there's a bet on the street. I don't know, Michelle, if you have any visibility to the first quarter. You are, thankfully, a member of our survey. So.
Yes, I am.
Right.
And we're actually tracking 1.5%
you're right at the median.
So we're right in the median. And
good work.
I mean, it's still pretty early. We don't have that many indicators.
Right.
So we have some sense of the health of the consumer with auto sales, which look like they've slowed a bit. We have some indications from the handoff from inventories. It looks like we probably still have some inventory reduction to do. That didn't happen as much in the third quarter as maybe we anticipated. But I think you're right. There's just a few that we're reaching the low. Maybe the low is in Q4. Maybe it's in Q1. But people are trying to look forward to what's happening next and saying, is it the case that we can become more optimistic about the next few quarters versus just focusing on the fact that the data is weak today? So far, the data isn't providing that much evidence that we should be optimistic yet. But people are looking for those signals. And even these modest turns higher, these small inflection points, I think are getting a lot of attention.